Today we're going to go over the basics of buying a domain, setting up GitHub for GitHub pages, basic HTML and CSS with a contact form, and finally, email forwarding to start putting your domain to work. Let's get started. I'm going to head over to my URL maxmatthews/domains. I'll put a link in the description and on screen, which is going to take us over to Namecheap. Now, Namecheap is a registrar. There are lots of different registrars out there. Google Domains is a big one, GoDaddy, 1&1. There are a couple others out there as well. I prefer to stay away from GoDaddy just because I think they're a little clunky and money hungry. I prefer to use Namecheap, or Google Domains is a good second option. So I'm actually going to go through this process to buy the domain maxmentor.me, and we'll be using that throughout the website. So I'm just going to do a quick search for it. I'm going to see that it's available, add it to the cart, then view my cart. And now I want to make sure that WhoIsGuard is turned on. Now, there is a system called WhoIs, which is built into all domain registrations that allows the public to see your name and address of whoever owns a domain. So there is a service that has come around called WhoIsGuard that prevents that from happening. Privacy protection is another name for it at other registrars. Fortunately, Namecheap offers it for free, and I would really recommend having this turned on because otherwise you will get a lot of junk email and also postal mail trying to get you to switch away from Namecheap or whoever domain registrar you pick, and they tend to offer very pricey rates. So turning on WhoIsGuard kind of obfuscates that information and makes sure it's not available to the public. So I'm going to continue here. I'm going to hit confirm order. Go ahead and ignore honey that's up on the screen. And I'm going to sign in here. If you aren't a Namecheap customer, you would go ahead and fill out that section on the right. So I'm just going to review everything here. I apologize for the blurred out information. That is just protecting me. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit pay now. Namecheap is then going to go ahead and start processing the order, and then we're going to really put Namecheap on pause, and we're going to switch gears. Sometimes buying a domain takes a little time to process, so we're going to let Namecheap do that, and we're going to switch over to downloading a text editor called VS Code, or Visual Studio Code. This is completely free. I'm getting it for the Mac. This also works on PC. And now I'm going to go and get GitHub Desktop. And we'll be using this software a little bit later to deploy our website. But for now, we're going to use it to just get our coding environment set up. They both download a zip file, so if you need to extract them, go ahead. And now I'm going to open GitHub Desktop. Now this is Editor Max realizing that he forgot to show you this initial screen. So go ahead and hit create your account. And then once you're signed in, you're going to end up on this screen. So what you're going to want to do is click on create a new repository. And now this is very important. The name of the repository has to be whatever GitHub username you picked. Don't worry, this won't show up on your final website once we're done linking up the custom domain. But for right now, go ahead and for the name of the repository, type in whatever GitHub username you picked, .github.io. And now go ahead and hit choose on the path. I prefer to put things at my desktop, but wherever you choose to put it is completely okay. So go ahead and hit create repository. We're going to then go ahead and open up VS Code, click on open folder, and then open that folder from our desktop. Now that we're there, we're going to create a new file called index.html. Okay, now VS Code makes it super easy to get started with a template. So all I'm going to do is type in HTML and hit tab, and it's going to automatically fill out this template for us. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the title of the document, which is the name of the website that shows up in the tab bar in Chrome. So I'm just going to go ahead and call that my name. And now I am going to go ahead and go to fonts.google.com. Web fonts can be really tricky, but Google Fonts makes it super easy to paste in one section of code and have access to a font. So I'm doing a search for railway and I'm grabbing two different font variations, a font weight of 300 and 400, which is basically just the thickness of the font. I'm going to go ahead and grab that code and put it into the head section of my website. Next up, I'm going to head over to Bootstrap and get that link as well. So now my website, when I open it, knows how to go to Google to get my font and knows how to get Bootstrap, which is a framework we're basically going to use for easy styling. Now I'm going to paste in a section of code here. This code's really simple. All that it's doing is making it so that it is mobile responsive. So the margin is just going to add a little padding all around the page. So it's not right up against the edge of the window. I'm going to set a max width on it of 650 pixels. So that's saying on a desktop display, I don't want it to be huge. I'm going to give some line height, 1.6, to make my text feel a little spaced out, a little airier, give it room to breathe. And I'm also going to make it a little bigger. I'm going to set it to that font size of 18px. Color should be pretty self-explanatory. That hashtag means we're going to use a hex code, and 444 is just a off black. We never want to use an extreme pure white or pure black because it's jarring to the eyes. Padding, again, is just going to give some space between the elements. I'm going to set my background to EEE, which is an off-white color. I'm going to set my text align to right, which is just going to give the website a different feel and look. And then finally, I'm going to set my font family across the entire site to Railway. That's the font we pulled in from Google, and that's just going to make it a little classier, not look like Times New Roman. The line height on my each 1, 2, and 3, I'm just going to set so there's a little less padding between them. And then I'm going to set my font weight on my each 1 to 400 and my font weight on the P tag down to 300. We're going to see what impact that has in 1 second. So now that I've done all of that, I am going to start in my body section. So I'm going to add an H1 tag and I'm just going to say, hi, I'm Max. Okay. And while we're at it, let's add a P tag right underneath it that says, you can contact me at here. And what we're going to do is after we finish typing out our sentence, we're going to add an A tag. That A tag is going to have an href in it. That href is basically telling the computer where we want to go. And then we're going to use this special word called mail_to and then type out my regular email address. What that's going to do is make it so the word here is going to trigger an email to open when I click on it. Okay, so before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's go ahead and open the page, go to our desktop, our folder, and open index.html. We can do this in any web browser. And hey, we're doing pretty good. We have our name and our text showing up, and the link is working. Okay, so let's keep going here. I'm also going to set up a contact form. So we're going to use a special HTML tag again called form. And we're going to start with a div class form group. Now that form group is coming in from Bootstrap and it's just adding some additional styling for us. So let's create a label called name, and then we're going to put an input tag down, which is going to let users type in. We're going to say it's the type text, and we're going to use the class name form-control. And again, that's just adding some styling that Bootstrap has for us. Finally, we're going to create a name tag, so when we get our email, we'll know what field is coming in. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So we're going to just copy and paste that, and we're going to change our name to email, and we are also going to update the name, and we're going to use a special one called reply to, just so our form knows what to send out email-wise, and we're going to make that input type email. Okay, that looks good. And we're going to do one more, and this time we're going to make a message, and we're going to change out our entire input, and we are going to make it a text area. So we can delete out that. We still want that class form control. And then the name we are going to put on it is message. All right. Now let's go ahead and take a look at that. We are going to create an input type hidden, and we're going to call that name honeypot. And what that's going to do is make sure that spammers aren't going to get through. So that's hidden, an end user won't see it. It just prevents automated systems. Finally, we're going to create a button type submit, and we're going to put a class of BTN and BTN primary on that. And again, that's just going to give us some nice styling that's going to make it easier for us to get our website up. So we'll type in the word send there. That shows up. That's all good. So now we have to make this form work. So what we're going to do is we are going to use a free service for sending an email from a form called mailthis.to. And I'm going to grab the documentation right off that site and copy and paste that in to my form tag. And after I do, I'm going to just change out the email address so mine shows up. Now, it's important to test this out before you put it up on your website, because the first time you use it, you do need to click a confirmation link that will confirm that that email address belongs to you. So let's create a test form. We'll fill it out. Doesn't really matter. We'll hit send. And then it's important to go check your email and make sure that that is working. So we're making good progress here. Now we have to figure out what's next. Well, it would be nice if we could deploy this website. Deploy just means make it available on the public internet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up GitHub Desktop, and I'm going to do what is called a commit. Now, a commit is going to basically say, hey, here is the code that I am ready to send up. I am committing to this code. I'm ready for this code to go up. Once we do that, we need to push. Now, GitHub Desktop calls this the publishing of a repository. So what we're going to do is click on Publish Repository. We're going to create the repository name, uncheck Keep this code private because it's going to be available on the public internet, and hit Publish Repository. That's going to set us up at github.com for us and make it ready for us to go. Awesome. So from here, we're going to go to our URL, which by default is going to be your GitHub username.github.io. And now this 404 error is saying that, well, we couldn't find it. It's not quite ready yet. That's all right. We just need to give it some time to process. So what we're going to do is head back over to Namecheap, and now we're going to link up our Namecheap domain that we just bought with our GitHub pages free website hosting. So in order to do this, we're going to use a system called DNS. DNS stands for Domain Name System, and it basically is telling your computer, hey, when you go get maxmentor.me, there are several different things that I could do. I could be trying to send an email. That would be called an MX record. Or I am trying to point maxmentor.me at someone else, like GitHub. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and click on Manage. We're going to go to Advanced DNS. And then let's go ahead and delete out that CNAME record. And when we do that, it comes right back at us. Basically, Namecheap doesn't want us to have no DNS record. So what we're going to do, we're going to go out and we're going to get the documentation for setting up a custom GitHub Pages domain. So I'm going to just Google for that, and I'm going to scroll down to the right section, and all of these links will be in the description below, so you can find them directly. And what we are going to do is configure what they call an Apex domain. So we're going to copy that, and because it's an IP address, we're going to use an A record. So we're going to click on A record, we're going to paste in the IP address, and we also need to set the host to the @ symbol. That @ symbol is basically just saying that we want it to work with no subdomain. We want it to work right when I go to maxmentor.me, I'm going to load these up. Now there are 4 of them, just in case any of the GitHub servers go down. The DNS system is smart enough to route around that and try and use a different IP address. Okay, and finally, we are going to delete out those records that Namecheap gave us for free. Those will conflict, so we want to make sure they're out of here. Now, the final thing we're going to do is set up a CNAME record. A CNAME record is, instead of using an IP address, it's going to use another domain name and forward it over. So it's always good to, in addition to setting up your root records, which are, again, no subdomain, just going to maxmentor.me, we also want to set up www, because a lot of people still type that in before going to a website. So we're going to use a CNAME, and the reason why we're using a CNAME, again, is because what we're going to type in here isn't an IP address. We're actually going to type in our GitHub IO URL. Again, no one will ever see this unless they start digging into your technology. Okay, so we've got all of that set up. Now we need to set up an email forwarder. While we're here, it's very nice to have an email address, contact@mydomain.com or whatever it is. So we're going to set that up. We're just going to type in contact here, and we're going to say forward this to an email. Now, this email address already has to exist. A lot of people can use their Gmail or whatever it may be. A couple options to look into here is if you want to send email from your domain name, you're going to have to use something like Google's G Suite. Zoho Mail has a nice free tier. But for right now, what we're going to do is just make it so any email coming into our domain, any email sent to contact, is going to forward to an email address we already have. So we'll hit the check mark there. And now what we need to do is tell GitHub, hey, there's a heads up here. GitHub, we're linking up a custom domain. So we're going to go ahead and open up our repository at github.com. We're going to go over to settings, and we're going to scroll all the way down to GitHub pages. And in custom domain, we're going to type in the domain that we bought over at Namecheap and hit save. Now this is super important. Let's scroll back down. We can't do this right away, but in about 24 hours, you can check that enforce HTTPS. That's going to make it so HTTPS just works for us. It does take about 24 hours. However, that's an important thing to do, and that will fix that not secure that shows up in the domain. Okay, so I just went there, and look what shows up. Our website's here. That's pretty awesome. So we're going to cover one more thing. Let's go through making a change to our website. We're going to just add in 3 periods at the end of that p tag, just so we have something different. Now we're going to go back to our GitHub desktop client, and we're going to add in a commit message. Commit message just makes it easier for you to see what has changed over time. So we're going to type in add ellipsis, and we are going to make sure I spelled that right. And then afterwards, we're going to hit commit to master. Now, what we need to do is we need to pull. Pulling just says, hey, bring anything up that's on GitHub down to my computer. And now let's push. And what pushing is doing is sending your new code up to GitHub. So now that we've done that, we will wait just a minute or two. And now we want to go to github.com, go over to the repository. And what we can do is see that we updated our index.html with those 3 dots on it. Excellent. So now let's go over to our site, refresh it, and there it is. Thanks for watching this video. I hope to be uploading more videos like this in the future, so please subscribe and turn on that bell icon.